ha ha, bells and bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a swinging song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Betty Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lank, his fortune seemed his lot. He got into a drifting bang, and then he got upset. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh, o'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha, bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Hi, boys and girls. I'm RuthAnn from the Webster Library, and this is my assistant,
Carly, and I'm also from the Webster Library.
and we're going to read a book called
Grumpy Badger's Christmas.
by Paul Bright. But I'm going to need your help. I want you to say that when I go like this, I want you to say the word piffle. Can you try that now? Good job. Okay, let's get reading. It was almost Christmas, and the forest was a flurry of activity. The animals were bustling here and there, putting up the Christmas tree, wrapping presents, making tasty cakes and cookies, while the young ones scampered about, squealing with excitement. Everybody was looking forward to Christmas. Well, almost everybody. Grumpy Badger looked out his window and scowled. "Merry Christmas!" shouted Squirrel. "Merry Christmas! Bah!" he shouted back. "What piffle! I'm a sensible creature and I sleep all through the cold winter. Now I'm going to bed until the spring, and if anyone wakes me up, I shall be very, very grumpy." And with that, he pulled his window shut with a clunk. Grumpy Badger knew he would be hungry when he woke up, so he checked the pantry. There were pies and pastries, hams and cheeses, crispy crackers, jars of fruit, and sticky sweet jams. "That should do," he said. Then he filled his hot water bottle and climbed into bed. He had just closed his eyes when there was a knock at the door. It was Mole. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Badger," he said timidly. "I'm sorry to bother you. I've been trying to put lights on the Christmas tree, but it's just too big. Could I please borrow your ladder?" "Christmas tree," sputtered Grumpy Badger. "Piffle, and double piffle. Christmas is for sleeping, and that's what I'm trying to do." And he closed the door with a bang.
Can I do the...
"Bah," huffed Grumpy Badger, climbing into bed. "Borrow my ladder, indeed. All I want is a bit of peace and quiet, so leave me alone." He peeked under his bed where he'd put more food for springtime, candies and cornbread and cherry cupcakes. Then he cuddled deep into his big warm comforter. He was just starting to snore when there was another knock at the door. This time it was Squirrel. "Hello, Badger," he said. Cheerily, I brought you a Christmas present. Christmas present? Snorted Grumpy Badger. Piffle and triple piffle. I don't like presents and I don't like Christmas. All I want is a little piece. And he shut the door with a crash. Now Grumpy Badger was really grumpy. To cheer himself up, he thought about the bottles and bottles of lemonade he had in the cellar. But then he lay down and closed his eyes. But he couldn't sleep. His head felt a little chilly. Suddenly there was a loud banging at the door. Bang, bang, bang. Oh, what is it now? Grumpy Badger sighed. He was about as tired and grumpy as a badger could be. Oh, Badger, panted Rabbit, help, it's poor Mole. He's stuck at the top of the Christmas tree. Come quickly. Piffle, shouted Grumpy Badger, and triple piffle on top of that. Why can't everybody leave me alone? And he slammed the door so hard that the whole house shook. Slam. At long last, Grumpy Badger fell asleep, but soon he was tossing and turning and wriggling and squirming. He was dreaming of Mole, dangling by one tiny paw from the top of an enormous Christmas tree. Mole was trembling, and Mole was about to fall. No! Screamed Grumpy Badger, sitting bolt upright and suddenly wide awake. What have I done? He jumped out of bed, grabbed the ladder, and dashed into the street. Grumpy Badger raced up to the Christmas tree. Hold on, Mole! He scrambled up the ladder, scooped Mole gently into his arms, then helped him down to the ground. I'm sorry I left you hanging, mumbled Grumpy Badger. I suppose I've been a bit of a grump. That's okay, said Squirrel, and he gave Badger back his Christmas present, a soft, fluffy nightcap. I've been so grouchy, said Grumpy Badger. What can I do to make things better? And then he knew. Badger's Christmas party was the best ever. There were pies and pastries, cheeses and hams, sticky sweet jams, cookies and cupcakes, bottles and bottles of homemade lemonade. They jigged and jived and joked and laughed late into the night. Merry Christmas, everybody, Badger cried. And if you don't come to my party next year, I shall be very grumpy indeed. Thank you for helping me read Grumpy Badger's Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Bye.
Hi, I'd like to read you my favorite wintertime book, The Mitten by Jan Brett. I'm going to read you the board book version since it's a little easier to show on the video. So here we go. The Mitten by Jan Brett. Once there was a boy named Nicky. He wanted mittens as white as snow. Look at all of that snow. If you drop a white mitten in the snow, it will be hard to find, his grandmother told him. But Nicky wanted snow white mittens so much that Baba made them for him. There she is, knitting the mittens. When she finished knitting, Nicky put on the mittens and went out to play. It wasn't long before one mitten fell off. See it there at the bottom of the tree? A little mole found it and crawled inside. It was just the right size, so he decided to stay. A rabbit came hopping by. He wiggled in next to the mole. There he is. A hedgehog wanted to get warm. The mole and the rabbit made room for him, which was very kind, wasn't it? The owl didn't want to be left out. So the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog had to move over. The little mitten was getting crowded. A badger looked out from his house and saw the mitten. He climbed right in. It started to snow, so a fox pushed his way in and made himself right at home. Then a big bear sniffed at the mitten. The animals were packed in tight, but the bear didn't care. He crawled in anyway. The mitten was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Then a tiny mouse squeezed in and perched herself on the big bear's nose. See the little mouse there on his nose? The mouse's whiskers tickled the bear's nose. Achoo! And look what happened. The bear sneezed and all the animals flew out of the mitten. Oh, goodness. Nicky saw his mitten sail up into the air. I think he might have been looking for that mitten. From the window, Baba watched Nicky catch his mitten. "See, Baba," he called, "I have both my mittens." And Baba smiled. And there they are, he's back inside, and I think his Baba is wondering why that mitten looks a little bit larger than the one she knitted. The end.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our fine apparel, fa la 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 la. Sing the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la. See the blazing Yule before us, fa la 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 la. Strike the harp and join the chorus, fa la 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 la. Follow me in merry measure, fa la 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 la. While we sing of Yuletide treasure, fa la 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 la. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la. Don we now our fine apparel, fa la 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 la. Throw the ancient Yuletide carol, fa la 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 la.
A Loud Winter's Nap by Katie Hudson. Tortoise had just snuggled in for his long winter nap when... "Hello there, Tortoise," chirped Robin. "Would you like to join our singing class?" "No," grumbled Tortoise. "I was trying to sleep. Tortoises don't like winter." "Why not?" chirped Robin. "They just don't," said Tortoise. And he packed up and left in search of a quieter place. Tortoise snuggled down in his new bed. He was just about to close his eyes when tap, tap, tap. "Hiya, Tortoise. Would you like to make some ice sculptures with me?" asked Rabbit. "No," groaned Tortoise. "I was trying to sleep. Tortoises don't like winter." "Why not?" asked Rabbit. "They just don't," said Tortoise, and he packed up again. Tortoise trudged through the snow and found a new napping spot. Again, Tortoise snuggled down in his new bed. He was just about to close his eyes when... Thud! Pat! Splat! Hey, Tortoise! Would you like to play in our snowball fight? Asked Squirrel. No, said Tortoise. I'm trying to sleep. Tortoises don't like winter. Why not? Asked Squirrel. They just don't, groaned Tortoise. Why would anyone want to stay awake for winter? Grumbled Tortoise. He was tired and cold and needed to find a quieter place to sleep. Tortoise decided to move to higher ground. Again, Tortoise snuggled down in his new bed. He was just about to close his eyes when... Bounce! 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 Swish! Oh no! Cried Tortoise. Kerplunk! I do not like winter, Tortoise said. Tortoise hiked up a big snowy hill. Behind a small tree, Tortoise found a flat piece of wood. It was the perfect spot for napping. He snuggled down in his new bed and was about to close his eyes when... Whoosh! As Tortoise whizzed along, he couldn't help smiling. Maybe winter isn't so bad, he thought. And as he flew off his sled and through the air, he couldn't help giggling. Maybe winter is more than cold and snow, he thought. Whee! And as he slid across the ice, he realized he had been wrong. That night, Tortoise skated and slid and spun with his new friends late into the night. He wasn't tired or cold. Maybe some tortoises could like winter after all. And that's the end.
Hi, I'm Larry, and I'm the large print adult services librarian at the Webster Library, and today I am going to read Hanukkah Bear by Eric Kemmel and illustrated by Mike Wanaka. Old Bear awoke from his winter sleep. He poked his nose outside his den. What was that? Something to eat. Old Bear's empty stomach rumbled. He shook himself all over, then lumbered out of his den to follow the delicious smell. Baba Braina took the last potato latke from the pan and put it in the oven with the others. Baba Braina was 97 years old and did not hear or see as well as she used to, but she still made the best potato latkes in the village. Every year at Hanukkah time, all her friends came to her house on the edge of the forest. How they loved those latkes. Baba Braina always made plenty, but tonight she made twice as many as usual. Tonight was special. Tonight the rabbi was coming. Baba Braina hurried to get ready. Just then she heard a thump on the door. She opened it. Rabbi, you're here early. How nice to see you. Grumph, how growled the old bear. Happy Hanukkah to you too. Please, come in. Old Bear walked into the house. I'll take your coat, Rabbi. My, how thick it is. Baba Braina tugged at the old bear's fur. Old Bear roared. Growl. Oh, you want to keep your coat on? Well, that's all right. It is chilly in here. Old Bear's nose twitched. Rumph. Thank you, Rabbi. How kind of you to say that. The latkes would taste even better than they smell. Old Bear followed his nose to the oven. Rabbi, I'm surprised at you. You know we don't eat until we light the menorah. That's all right. I know you were teasing. I'll light the candles. Will you say the blessings? Baba Braina struck a match and lit the shamash candle. Then she lit the one for the first night. Old Bear muttered and growled. Who has kept us alive, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this season. Oh, Rabbi, you say the blessings so beautifully. Baba Braina sat down at the table.
Old Bear sat beside her. Let's play dreidel. I'll use these nuts. Old Bear cracked one with his teeth. Rabbi, you won't have any nuts for the game if you eat them, growled Old Bear. Don't worry, I have plenty of nuts if you need more. Baba Brena spun the dreidel. It stopped on the letter Gimel. I win, Baba Brena swept the nuts into her apron. Rawr, Old Bear roared. Don't be angry, Rabbi, it's only a game. She tossed him a nut. Old Bear begged for more. No, Rabbi, no more nuts. It's time for dinner. Baba Brena opened the oven door and took out a platter piled high with steaming potato latkes. Old Bear sniffed the latkes as she set them on the table. Do you prefer sour cream or jam? Baba Brena asked. Rawr, Old Bear growled. Jam, I thought so. Baba Brena smeared 5 big latkes with jam and stacked them on Old Bear's plate. Old Bear gobbled them down. Baba Brena laughed. You should use a fork. You have jam all over your beard. She wet a towel and wiped Old Bear's face. I must tell you, Rabbi, you eat like a bear. I'm hungry like a bear, so I eat like one. I can see that, Baba Brena said. Old Bear ate and ate until the latkes were gone. He felt drowsy. His head flopped on Baba Brena's lap. Rabbi, you're sleepy. Who wouldn't be sleepy after such a meal? All the latkes are gone. It's time to go home. But before you leave, I have a Hanukkah present for you. Baba Brena took a red scarf from her knitting basket. She wrapped it around Old Bear's neck. I made it myself. Old Bear licked Baba Bryant's face. Baba Bryant blushed. Oh, Rabbi, at my age. Old Bear shuffled to the door. Rumph, he growled as he walked off into the night. Good night to you too, Rabbi. Happy Hanukkah. Baba Brena was washing dishes when she heard another knock. I wonder who that is. Shalom, Baba Brena. All her friends stood at the door wishing her a happy Hanukkah. Shalom, everybody, Baba Brena said. How nice to see you. I'm sorry I don't have any more latkes. The rabbi came by. He ate them all. Baba Brena, don't you recognize me? It was the rabbi. The rabbi couldn't have eaten your latkes, everyone said. He's been with us in the synagogue. Baba Brena rubbed her forehead. Something strange is happening. Rabbi, I think there is an imposter going around. He looks like you. He talks like you. He even has your beard. Just then the children cried, look at the floor, bear tracks. A bear. And I thought it was the rabbi. Baba Brena had to sit down. Soon she began to giggle. That was a very clever bear, or a very foolish Baba Brena. Ah, well, let the bear have a happy Hanukkah. I had a happy Hanukkah too, and so will you, dear friends. Bring some potatoes from the cellar. Fetch my grater and bowl. Everybody has to help. You too, Rabbi. If we all work together, we'll soon have latkes for everyone. Deep in forest, Old Bear slumbered in his den. His stomach was full of potato latkes. The warm woolen scarf was wrapped snugly around his neck. Pleasant dreams, Old Bear, and happy Hanukkah.
Hanukkah, let's light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. A dreidel to play with and latkes to eat. Hanukkah, let's light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. A dreidel to play with and latkes to eat. While we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Hanukkah, let's light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. A dreidel to play with and latkes to eat. Hanukkah, let's light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. A dreidel to play with and latkes to eat. While we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Hanukkah, let's light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. A dreidel to play with and latkes to eat. Hanukkah, let's light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the horror. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. A dreidel to play with and latkes to eat.
Hi, I'm Linda. I work at the Webster Public Library, and I'm very happy to read this story to you tonight. It's called Oskar and the 8 Blessings. It's by Richard Simon and Tanya Simon, illustrated by Mark Siegel. Oskar's mother and father believed in the power of blessings. So did Oskar. Until the night of broken glass. His parents put him on a ship to America. He had nothing but an address and a photo of a woman he didn't know. "It's your Aunt Esther." And his father's last words to him: "Oskar, even in bad times, people can be good. You have to look for the blessings." And there's the ship when Oskar arrives into New York City on our title page. Oskar arrived in New York on the 7th day of Hanukkah. It was also Christmas Eve. He knew his Aunt Esther would be lighting the menorah at sunset. To reach her before the sun went down, Oskar would have to walk over 100 blocks on the avenue called Broadway. The city was terribly big, Oskar was terribly small, and Broadway stretched before him like a river. Oskar was already tired, hungry, and cold. His father's last words to him felt very far away. After a few blocks, he looked up to see a woman feeding pigeons. She offered him a piece of stale roll so he could feed them too. Oskar wanted to feed the birds, but he was too hungry not to swallow the morsel himself. The woman reached inside her coat and gave him a small loaf of bread. It was warm and fresh. It gave him the strength to keep walking. He saw a newsstand full of comics. One showed a strong man in a cape doing amazing things. He stopped bullets. He stopped trains. The newsstand man held out his hand. Oskar didn't have any money, so he gave back the comic book. The man called to him, "Keep it, kid. Merry Christmas." Oskar clutched his gift, his Superman, and he heard his father's words. "You have to look for the blessings."
Oskar kept walking. He stopped when he heard music coming from a little alley, where a big man was humming a jazzy tune. The man whistled to Oskar. Oskar whistled back. They made a tune as fast and light as the snowflakes falling around them. It was Oskar's first conversation in America. At the corner of a park, boys were having a snowball fight. One boy slipped. Oskar leapt and caught him, just as the Superman would have done. The boy was laughing, and that made Oskar laugh. But when he looked at Oskar's cold hands, he stopped laughing. He took off his mittens. Oskar put them on and felt the boy's warmth. He had something to give the boy, too. A few blocks later, a tall lady in a big coat walked out of a building. A policeman shouted, "Stand aside!" Oskar stopped short. "Oh, Thomas, he's just a child," the lady said to the policeman. "Let him pass." She winked at Oskar. The policeman moved out of Oskar's path. "Yes, Mrs. Roosevelt." "Mrs. Roosevelt?" The sun was setting and Oskar began to run. He had to get to Aunt Esther's before she lit the shamash. Running, he stumbled and fell. A hand reached out and pulled him up. "Back on your feet, son." His father was right. People can be good. He turned the corner and ran down the street looking for her house. He ran past a woman humming a nigandal. Suddenly, he heard a name. Benjamin. It wasn't his name. It was his father's, and it washed over him. She had a dimpled smile just like his. "That's Papa," he cried. "I'm Oskar," whispered Aunt Esther. Oskar and the 8 Blessings.
Santa's Littlest Helper. Far, far in the north, where the first snow falls in summertime, a special village is hidden away. The village where Santa and all his helpers live. And in that village lived a little helper who couldn't wait for Christmas. He was always the first to bring a Christmas tree back from the great forest, the first to clean his sleigh, polish his boots, and spruce up his red Christmas coat. As for presents, the littlest helper had his wrapped and ready, while the other helpers were still choosing theirs. He liked to give toys that he had made himself. He could make all sorts of things, like brightly colored cars, spotted wooden dogs, rocking horses, and dollhouses. He also baked wonderful cinnamon stars, honey cakes, and chocolate cookies. His gingerbread was the finest in the whole world. Once all the presents were wrapped and cookies baked, he looked forward to delivering them to the children. But every year, the same thing happened. "No, you can't come," said the chief helper, who was in charge of everything in the village. "You are too small." "The children would laugh their heads off," shouted one helper. "If they could even see him," laughed another. "With his tiny sleigh," said a third. The chief helper just smiled and said to the littlest helper, "Perhaps next year." But the littlest helper was beginning to doubt it. He didn't want to see or hear the other helpers set off on their journey with Santa, So he closed the shutters and stayed in his room all alone. He didn't mind that he was smaller than the others, but he was very sad that he wasn't allowed to go and visit the children. In the evening, when everything lay quiet and deserted, he ventured outside. He wasn't allowed to fly with the others, but he could at least stretch his legs. The stars twinkled, but the little helper didn't look at them. The others would be flying up there somewhere in their reindeer sleigh. Then suddenly he heard voices in the great forest. Only the animals lived in the forest. What were they talking about so late at night? The littlest helper was small enough to sneak up close without the animals noticing him. The squirrel was there, and the hare, the bear, the wild pig, and the mice. They were all complaining. "It's not fair," growled the bear. "Santa and his helpers take presents to humans every year, but they never come to us animals." "And we're right on their doorstep," grumbled the hare. "It's always been like that," sighed the old owl. "I'm afraid it will never change." But it did change. As soon as the little helper heard what the animals were saying, he silently slipped away and ran home. He checked his clothes in the mirror, packed the presents onto his sleigh, and then he was off again. He had no reindeer, as they had all gone with the other helpers, but he could easily push the sleigh as far as the forest. That evening, the animals had a party. The great forest had never seen anything like it. All the animals received presents, but the growly bear was happiest of all. He had never been given anything in his life before. And the owl was proudest. She tried on her new pullover and was instantly the best dressed bird in the whole forest. As soon as the other helpers returned, the littlest helper went to the chief and told him what had happened. The chief helper was amazed and named him Santa for the animals. "Bravo!" shouted the others, and they carried him high on their shoulders. And ever since then, the littlest helper has been just as important as the big ones. Every single year. The end.
Hi, my name is Linda. This is my daughter Martha, and we're going to sing a song to you. This is a song that I love to sing to my grandkids. Here we go. Ready? Yep. A mule is an animal with long funny ears. He kicks up at anything he hears. His back is brawny, but his brain is weak. He's just plain stupid with a stubborn streak. And by the way, if you hate to go to school, you may grow up to be a mule. Or would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a pig? A pig is an animal with dirt on his face. His shoes are a terrible disgrace. He has no manners when he eats his food. He's fat and lazy and extremely rude. But if you don't give a feather or a fig, you may grow up to be a pig. Or would you like to swing on a star, carry moonbeams home in a jar, and be better off than you are? Or would you rather be a fish? A fish don't do anything but swim in a brook. He can't write his name or read a book. To fool the people is his only thought. And though he's slippery, he still gets caught. But then if that sort of life is what you wish, you may grow up to be a fish. And all the monkeys aren't in a zoo. Every day you meet
My name is Sarah, and I'm the Children and Family Experiences Librarian. I'm going to be reading you Samurai Santa, A Very Ninja Christmas by Reuben Pink. Christmas Eve was the most perfect snow day of the year. Yukio had never seen such big snowflakes. They seemed full of magic. Yukio dressed for the snow and went outside, where he found himself alone. He needed more ninjas for an epic snowball fight. No, the rope climbing ninjas replied. Santa wants us to be good little ninjas. No, said the balancing ninjas. Good little ninjas practice their skills. No, said a sword fighting ninja. We don't want to be on Santa's naughty list. Yukio felt sad and lonely. It's Santa's fault nobody will play. Santa must be chased away. Yukio was upset. He didn't care about presents or stockings or even lumps of coal. Santa was in the way of a good snowball fight. So Yukio plotted to run Santa out of Ninja Village. All the good little ninjas were asleep, but not Yukio. Santa squeezed and slouched and slithered and stumbled down the chimney, while Yukio waited for the perfect moment to surprise Santa. Yukio crept to the loudest gong around. Crash! Intruder! Yukio shouted. Everyone wake up! Sleepy ninjas chased the bright red intruder. Who was he? The prowler got away. Ninjas looked and looked. They could not find him anywhere. Suddenly, a samurai stood on the hill with an army of snowmen. Banzai! Yelled the samurai. Ninjas and snowmen clashed. They tumbled in the foothills. Snow zoomed across the housetops. Snow flew through the trees. It was epic. When it was finally over, the samurai was nowhere to be found. Tired ninjas marched home. Then Yukio realized his friends would have no presents from Santa. It was all his fault. Yukio had been a naughty ninja. He had chased Santa away. But to Yukio's surprise, the house was full of gifts. There was also a letter for Yukio. Dear Yukio, I hope you enjoyed the epic snowball fight. I made it just for you. Sincerely, Samurai Santa. The end.
Hi, I'm Erin, and I'm a children's library assistant here at the Webster Library, and I will be reading Santa Mouse by Michael Brown. Once there was a little mouse who didn't have a name. He lived in a great big house, this mouse, the only mouse in the whole wide house. He used to play a game. He daydreamed he had playmates who were friendly as could be. While some of them would bring their dolls and dress up and have tea, there were others who'd play cowboys or Eskimos or Spanish. But when he tried to touch them, like a bubble, they would vanish. Now through the year, this little mouse had saved one special thing, a piece of cheese. The kind that makes an angel want to sing. On Christmas Eve, he brushed his teeth, and as he washed his paws, he thought, my goodness, no one gives a gift to Santa Claus. He ran to get his pretty cheese, and after he had found it, the paper from some chewing gum, he quickly wrapped around it. And then he climbed in bed and dreamed that he was lifted high. He woke to find that he was looking right in Santa's eye. "I thank you for my gift," said Santa. "Tell me, what's your name?" "I haven't any," said the mouse. "You haven't? That's a shame. You know I need a helper as I travel house to house, and I shall give a name to you. I'll call you Santa Mouse. So here's your beard, and here's your suit, and here's each tiny boot. You mustn't sneeze and don't you cough. Just put them on and we'll be off." Then over all the rooftops on a journey with no end, away they went together, Santa and his tiny friend. And so this Christmas, if you please, beneath the tree that's in your house, why don't you leave a piece of cheese? You know who'll thank you? Santa Mouse.
Hi guys, I'm children's librarian Shana. I'm going to read Little Santa. In the North Pole, in a little cabin, lived Mr. and Mrs. Claus and their 7 children, Larry, Mary, Willie, Millie, Zoe, Joey, and Santa. Life was tough in the North Pole every day. There was more wood to be chopped, more snow to be shoveled, another fish to be caught, a quilt to be mended, and a fire to be stoked. The Clauses were miserable. Except for Santa. He loved the North Pole. He liked making snow angels and snowmen, decorating pine trees, and baking gingerbread cookies in the shape of people. Most of all, he liked sliding down the chimney. So when the Clauses decided to move to Florida, Santa was very sad. "Won't you miss all the pine trees and the icicles and miles of snow?" "No, Santa," they said, "we won't." That night, as everyone packed, there was a terrible blizzard. The next morning, the house was buried under a large snowdrift. The Clauses were trapped. "What are we going to do?" said Mrs. Claus. "I know," said Santa. "I can shimmy up the chimney." So Mr. and Mrs. Claus gave Santa some food and some snowshoes and sent him to get help. After a long walk, he came to a little branch. "Ho, ho, ho," said Santa. "You must be the top of a tall tree." "No," said a voice. "I'm a very cold reindeer." Santa dug the reindeer out of the snow. "Gosh," said the reindeer, "what are you doing out here?" Santa told the reindeer about his family. "Up on my back," said the reindeer. "We'll look for help." "Gee whiz," said Santa. "You're a pretty special reindeer." On a tall bluff, they saw a house. A light was on inside. "Stop here," said Santa. The reindeer landed, and Santa slid down the chimney. The house was full of elves. "Holy snowflake," said the oldest one. "Who are you?" Santa introduced himself and told the elves about his family. "We can help," said the elf. "We'll make shovels so we can dig them out of the snow." In no time at all the shovels were made. "Now, Santa," said the elf, "how will we get this to your house?" "I've got a flying reindeer," said Santa. "Wow," said the elf. "And do you have a sleigh too?" "What's a sleigh?" said Santa. Well, said the elf. "I guess we'll have to build you one." The next morning it was finished. Santa hooked up the reindeer and everybody climbed aboard. "Ready?" said the reindeer. "Ready," said Santa. Off they went to look for Santa's house. Far away, the Clauses were waiting for Santa to return. It was almost midnight when the dog heard a familiar noise coming from the chimney. Could it be? "Ho, ho, ho," said Santa. "I'm home." The Clauses were overjoyed, but there was more noise coming from just outside. Santa opened the door. "Look, everybody," said Santa. "These are my new friends." "Welcome," said Santa's family. Well, it was a good year in the North Pole. The Clauses and the elves spent lots of time together, and life wasn't as tough as it was before. But when winter came, Santa's family decided to move to Florida after all. Santa, he stayed behind. And you know the rest of the story.
On Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen. But do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, bright. Won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose, and if you ever saw it, you would even say it glowed. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer game. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him, and they shouted out with glee. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? Then how the reindeer loved him as they shouted out with glee. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer, you'll go down in history.
This is Olive the Other Reindeer by J. Otto Seibold and Vivian Walsh. It's also illustrated by J. Otto Seibold. Every day, Olive took her daily dog walk. Winter, spring, summer, or fall. Today was a winter's day. It was the holidays. There was music playing outdoors. People were singing along. Olive the Other Reindeer. Olive was too shy to sing. She hummed. Back at her doghouse, Olive was wrapping presents and listening to the radio. She heard that same song again. Olive the Other Reindeer, went the song. Olive the Other Reindeer, Olive sang along. Olive the Reindeer, said Olive. I thought I was a dog. I must be a reindeer. It was that time of year when all reindeer reported to the North Pole to help Santa Claus. Olive put down her scissors carefully and marched out the door. She took one bus and then two buses. She got there just in time. Santa was checking his list for the second time. Elves were busy helping the reindeer and loading the sleigh with presents for all the good boys and girls. Everyone was ready to go. Olive took her place. Santa noticed that there was a little dog in the lineup. Santa knew a lot about dogs. For instance, they can't fly. Do you think dogs can fly? No. But as it was time to go, he decided to give Olive a chance. Comet, the biggest reindeer, used a piece of extra ribbon to make sure Olive was tied in safe and tight. Now they were ready to go. Olive was surprised it was so easy to fly. Do you think she's flying? No, she's just tied up there. The other reindeer were very curious about the new helper. They looked at Olive so much they weren't watching where they were going. Crash! They flew smack into the top of a too tall tree. Oh dear, said Santa, my sleigh is stuck in this tree. I'll have to cut it free. Olive clung to the side of the tree. She tried to fly up to help Santa, but she could not. She climbed up slowly and started chewing. Chewing sticks was something Olive could do well. Thank you, Olive, said Santa Claus as they got back on their way. They had not traveled far when Olive's nose began to twitch. Olive smelled trouble. It was the smell of gumdrop candies as they fell from the sleigh. Drop, drop, drop. Olive barked, and Santa knew what to do. He steered the reindeer down and around so that all the gumdrops fell. Plop, 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 back into the toy sack. We were very lucky not to lose a single gumdrop, thought Olive. Then she heard a strange sound. It was the musical note. She spun around on her string to see the night sky filled with falling flutes. Olive had to howl louder than the wind instruments. This was not music to Santa's ears. First gumdrops and now flutes, thought Santa. The tree must have torn a hole in my sled. Prepare for an emergency landing, Santa instructed. The sleigh landed in a snowy field full of flutes. Luckily, Olive was very good at fetching sticks. It is something dogs love to do.
Before Santa had finished patching the hole in the sleigh, Olive had returned each and every flute back to the sack. "Ho, ho, ho," said Santa. "We're ready to go." They were running late, but after a while, all the good children received their presents, and Santa and his team headed home. They were almost home when they got caught in the dreaded North Pole fog. The reindeer slowed down until it was only the breeze that moved them along. The fog was thick as a pillow. It made everyone feel sleepy. Then Santa remembered something about dogs. They are expert smellers. "Olive, I'd hate to be late for breakfast this year," he said. "Mrs. Claus has planned a parade of cookies." You can almost smell them, can't you?" Olive could smell the cookies. "Olive, won't you tie my sleigh this morning?" said Santa. Olive moved to the front of the reindeer. There she is on their head. Look. Thanks to Olive's nose and Mrs. Claus' baking, they made it all the way back to the North Pole. All the elves sang out a cheer. "Hooray! Hooray! Santa and the reindeer and the little dog are back." Back at the North Pole was a glorious morning. After eating lots of good food, it was time to open presents. The reindeer got jump ropes and the elves got toy trains. Santa reached into his toy sack. There was just one present left. It was for Olive. It was her very own set of reindeer antlers. They fit perfectly. Then everyone went outside to play reindeer games. The end. Good book?
Yeah, good book.
Mortimer's Christmas Manger by Karma Wilson and Jane Chapman. In a big house lived a wee mouse named Mortimer. He dwelled in a dark hole under the stairs. Nobody ever noticed little Mortimer, and Mortimer liked it that way, but he didn't like his hole. "Too cold, too cramped, too creepy," squeaked Mortimer. Each day he snuck out and crept about looking for crumbs and tidbits. One day, Mortimer spied something new. What he spied was wonderful. He saw a huge tree covered with twinkling lights. Nestled on top was a bright, shining star, but something even better than the tree itself stood next to it on a table. Mortimer sighed with delight. "A house just my size!" But the house was so high and Mortimer was so low. "I'll climb up the tree," said Mortimer. It made a perfect ladder for a mouse. Finally, he reached the table. "Perfect," said Mortimer. "Not cold, not cramped, not creepy. Cozy. But who are you?" Mortimer had never seen people so small, almost as small as himself. He had never seen such strange animals either. Tap, tap, tap. Mortimer knocked, but no one answered. Tap, tap, tap. No one moved an inch. "I see," Mortimer squeaked. "You aren't real, only statues." And so Mortimer lugged and Mortimer tugged. One by one, he dragged the statues out. When he reached the smallest statue, he saw it was a baby. A baby in a wooden bed, just Mortimer's size. "There's no room for you here," Mortimer said. "Out you go." Then into bed crawled Mortimer. He fell fast asleep in the soft, warm hay. The next day, as Mortimer crept about, he found good things to eat. Cookie crumbs, fruitcake morsels, and spicy peppermint candy. But when Mortimer scampered back up to his new house, the statues were set up again. "No, no," squeaked Mortimer. "This won't do. There's no room for me." And so Mortimer lugged and Mortimer tugged until the statues were out. "And stay out," he said. Then into bed crawled Mortimer. He fell fast asleep in the soft, warm hay. But each day, while Mortimer scurried about, the statues were set up again. and Mortimer always lugged and tugged them back out. Then, one day, Mortimer set out and saw the big people gathered around the tree. He couldn't go out there, so he hid it among the statues. A man started talking. Mortimer listened, and what he heard was wonderful. "Since it is Christmas Eve, I shall tell the Christmas story," said the man. "A long time ago in a little town called Bethlehem." Mortimer heard about people named Joseph and Mary and a bright shining star. He heard about shepherds watching their flocks by night and traveling wise men. The man continued, and there was no room for them in the inn. Then Mortimer heard about a baby who was born in a stable and had no real bed, but slept in a wooden manger. A baby born to save the world. "And his name shall be called Jesus," said the man. Mortimer looked at the bright shining star on the tree. He looked at his new home and his new bed. He looked at the statues. Last of all, he looked at the baby. "I see," sighed Mortimer. "You aren't just any statue. You are a statue of Jesus." Mortimer sniffed. Mortimer snuffled. A tear rolled down his furry cheek. "There was no room for you in the inn. But I know where there is room," he said. And so Mortimer tugged and Mortimer lugged. Soon he dragged all the statues back to where they belonged. Last of all, he laid the baby in the manger. "This belongs to you," he said. Mortimer smiled. "You look warm and cozy now." There was no place for Mortimer to go except back to the cold, cramped, creepy hole. As Mortimer scuttled down the tree, he said a prayer. "Jesus, you were born to save the world. Perhaps you could also bring me a home?" And then Mortimer spied something new. What he spied was wonderful. Mortimer sighed with delight. A house just my size. There were no statues in sight, and so Mortimer moved right in. "Thank you, Jesus," said Mortimer. "You've made room for me, too."
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven above, heavenly hosts sing Alleluia, Christ the your light. Radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Jesus, Lord, at thy birth. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate. We hope that you are safe and healthy and happy and get all the love that you need. Bye.